Good morning, good morning, good morning, guys. Welcome to Island Tea right here on Win Media SKN. It's Thursday, guys. We're almost at the end of the week, at least the work week for most. And it's a pleasure to be here on November 10th. I'm your fave, Azem, and usually I'm joined by Jade, Gwenny, Adita, CPL Matter, Stuart Johnson, who, for those of you who are concerned where she is, I've been getting questions. People been seeing me on the street. What happened to your co-host? What happened to Jade? She all right? Yes, like we've been saying, she has actually been stranded on a not so remote island called St. Martin, but she actually got back to the island, just unable to make it this morning. Hopefully she's here with us tomorrow, so that should be interesting. Hearing about the adventures of Jade Caruso. But yeah, I'm gonna be here, and you guys have been keeping me great company throughout the week. I really appreciate that. All the callers that have been calling in, all the persons on the live, and of course the guests that have been coming to hang out. We have some guests this morning as well. Good morning to all the people on the live already sending the shout outs. Big up yourself. Oh, yesterday I was supposed to give her birthday shout out. I'll give it as a belated birthday. Zendaya Delaney. Yeah, I actually think that was something like Tuesday, but I missed it. Good, happy birthday to you. I'm hopeful it was a amazing one, and this year is filled with lots of high points, lots of success, expansion of your estate, good times all around. Yeah. Well, guys, what's happening in the Federation? What is happening in the Federation? Every time I ask people that question now, you get all sorts of responses. But I think generally it does feel like there's a settling down of things for the most part, especially with what we had been coming out of, not only the last few months, but even the last few years, where it felt like there was, with COVID, always something. I mean, I remember during the time things were happening, and of course it dominated what we spoke about here. Almost every article, almost every guest we came into, every interview we did, had a tinge of COVID sprinkled in on top of it, and you couldn't escape it. You couldn't escape it. Everywhere you look, COVID. And now that we've begun to kind of come out of that particular era, I mean, people have begun to really look back. Yesterday, I was speaking to somebody, and the person was like, "Where COVID gone?" I was like, "But we vaccinated out of the world." We vaccinated out of the world, and the person was like, "I take my vaccination by," but I just looking back at the entire thing, how much they were able to, the level of control they were able to exercise on us through fear, and that is not that I'm saying is warranted, but it does feel as though even if that action was necessary, the fear is that they could exercise that at any moment for whatever reasons possible. And this thing is, a lot of these decisions that we were put on, let's be clear, we were following instructions that were kind of passed down to us from other places, kind of looking at best practices, perceived best practices in some of the other territories. We're using information that was given to us based on, what we knew of the virus. And so it's like, by even the way that foreign policy affected our local policy, so by that all these things were new, is an interesting time. And I keep saying we're gonna have to look back and do a full examination. I don't think people have really begun to sit with a lot of these things. I think it was such a traumatic time that we just kind of like, but thankfully we are the ones who came out on the other side, and we don't really want to revisit. We don't really want to revisit that time period and look into it too much. Outside of course, criticism of policies made by decisions made by politicians, normally for political gain. I'm saying, if we are to ever enter back into a similar situation, when I say a similar situation, it don't have to necessarily be a pandemic. It could be a global disaster that we can't escape the effects of. How do we respond? And even in the case of pandemics, we can no longer assume that these things won't happen. Like, God forbid, we don't want it to happen again. But if it is to happen again, what we're gonna say? That this is all new. We didn't know. We we weren't prepared. Like, and hopefully it doesn't happen in my lifetime. And I'm definitely not wishing it on future generations. But I don't think that we can kind of just sit idly by and then do what we did this last time, which was, for the most part, just kind of take on, just go based on the instructions of other foreign governments, agencies, without having our own measures in place, right? I think a lot of it was we kind of learn on the fly, but again, I don't think we could have the excuse now of, by this is new, we're not sure what this is, how to deal with it. I don't think that's gonna fly going forward. And so what's being put in place? And the thing about it, I don't think these things can be put in place overnight. So I don't think it has to be put in place by anybody, but it must first start with, by anybody in particular, but it must first start with a process to examine not only how things were handled in terms of, should we have closed down the borders at this particular time? Should we have opened them at this particular time? What powers should have been given to the health officials? Well, how does that affect our personal freedoms? How does that affect commerce? How does that affect, in the case that we have to do something like this, what measures do the government put in place to lessen the impacts, not only financially on people economically, but also just socially? Who's exempt? There was discussions before about, well, you can't stop the church from meeting. The church should be able to meet even though there's a lockdown. The church is an essential service. Who's an essential service? Who's a frontline worker? What should they expect having to work through certain situations? Is this something that they should expect because of the nature of their job? Like, these are questions that were coming up over and over again during the pandemic, and I don't think we've really done a proper post-mortem to examine it. And when I say we, I'm not talking simply about the government, but even us as households, families, individuals, communities. I think we need to really stop, look at what happened, and then move forward. I don't think that we're going to get to a place again where they're going to be able to tell everybody just stay at home and the few of you who come out, mask up. I don't know if that's going to fly as simply as it did the last time. I think because of a certain level of mistrust. I don't even think they could come with this mass vaccination thing again, to be totally honest. I don't know if that's going to work on people again another time. But, of course, when we were in it, all we wanted to do was move forward, and now that we're moving forward, I don't think much of us want to look back. But it's going to be interesting. Even the way that history is written and rewritten, I could imagine, sitting around telling my great-grand, because I plan to be here for a while, guys. So I could imagine being around, sitting around, talking to my great-grandchildren and be like, I ever hear about this thing called COVID? I said, your grandpa will learn about that in school. I say, yeah, what you learn in school? I could just imagine myself being in awe of what they tell me they learn in school and being, but that ain't exactly how we went there. But we have somebody trying to join the conversation. Good morning, caller. You're live on LNT. What's up?
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
And good morning to Jade. I prayed for her. Wait for all the people to say Martin, you know?
For sure, for sure.
Yeah, man, that was a bit distressing. Now, what you're saying is interesting, you know. Have you been following what is happening in China now, today, yesterday?
Actually, no, I haven't heard anything.
They're still having lockdown.
Oh, but you said they're still in lockdown?
Yes, some parts.
Oh, well, yeah, I know that much.
Lockdown.
I know that much.
Huh?
Yeah, I said I know that much.
Yeah. So it isn't that something that we did, because you see what happened when we have to analyze our situation in a global context. Because we were not even the only ones. A lot of the things, you can't go here, you couldn't go America, you couldn't, you know what I mean?
Right. I do believe...
So the restrictions were not just local. So any analysis of our situation has to be done in a local and a global context.
Correct. What I'm saying though is, I do believe though that, for instance, and of course it's an assumption because we can't recreate this scenario, but had this virus been detected in, let's say, a more westernized democratic society, I believe the way that the world dealt with it would have been totally different. The fact that this was first...
Yeah, because the Western world, they took long to respond because they were hoping that it would stay.
No, that's not only that. But what I'm saying is the idea of having the ability to, for instance, lock down a particular community and tell them prior to COVID, those things were just almost insane. You couldn't even imagine it. So
Right.
I believe that they were able to do that because of the political climate and
More than that.
cultural sensibilities of China. And so
I think it's more than that, you know. I think the rapid increase in the number of deaths.
The what? You think the what?
The rapid increase in the number of deaths due to the corona.
Yeah, no. I'm not talking about. I'm not talking about.
I'm talking about the response. What might have caused the response?
No. What I'm saying, what I'm highlighting is, I believe that the culture of the nation that first dealt with it informed the way that a lot of the rest of the world formalized their policies in how to address it. So that's what I'm saying. I suspect that if it were, and that might be for the better or for the worse. It's not that I'm saying that the response that would have occurred might have been better. That's not what I'm saying. It might have actually been worse. But I do believe that. I do believe that because it started in China.
You're dealing with the unknown factor. And I think, as you said, especially how we got contact with the U.S. news,
right,
you see the piling up of bodies, and you begin to say, so many gone, then half our population gone. You know what I mean?
Right.
In some cases, the response might have been too much.
Yeah,
but you see, we're looking back. Eh?
Right.
When you're in it, and there was Paho and Carfor, you know, they were involved. It wasn't all of them were taken from CDC. So it's a kind of difficult. Look back, we could say anything.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's not. I don't think the goal should be look back to determine who did what, why they made what decision, what they should have done in order to criticize. Because there has to be a level of understanding. There has to be a level of understanding.
That tends to be the discussion.
Right.
That tends to be the discussion. And
right.
You can't prove it.
Yeah, but the problem I have, if the discussion stays there without informing the way that we prepare for similar situations, then it's a wasted exercise.
That's true. Because in terms of treatment, accommodation for the sick, you know.
Yeah, and I mean we don't, and not only that, we don't know what's next. I think what COVID shows is that we're gonna have to start expecting the unexpected. You know. That
would lead to living in fear, man.
No. I think failing to prepare puts us in a position of more fear.
Yeah, but you do as much as you can.
Yeah, but we have to do.
Yes, you know that. Look,
we have to do.
I don't know, but when you put on the news, China does the same Changwang, the place where they do the electronics and so. I think they say 700 and something must be dying a day, so they're back to lockdown. You know, so
Yeah.
we still got to sort it out.
At some point, these are the kind of things that see, and these are the things that fuel the conspiracy theorists.
Oh yeah.
These are the things that fuel the conspiracy theorists, and I think one of the issues is that sometimes the conspiracy theorists ask some questions that really require some answers, but because of the label of conspiracy, or because of the depth or what is suggested by the questions, we ignore the questions based on who the messenger is. And so it comes back to the same thing where the exercise that is necessary to prepare us for similar situations, it doesn't actually become fruitful, or it doesn't even happen at all in some cases.
Well, you know, as I say, you're looking at the thing, you don't pick up the Bible, you see it in there. And the Bible got the prescription. Greg could give the prescription, you know, repent.
Well, I don't know if during the time, even if we look back now, if that prescription would have been what the people would have wanted. Maybe it's what they needed. Maybe it's what they needed, but I don't know if that would have been considered proper policy.
None of the leaders, you understand? So we don't just continue down the same road. When you say one thing, they're up the arguing about climate change and whatever. And who's supposed to fix it? They're not doing this. Everybody looking at, is it dollar? Because the truth is, the issue of life nowadays become so insignificant in discussion. It seems like the marketplace is what determines the policies.
Yeah.
If you listen, is that, you know?
Well, even during the pandemic, I mean, you listen regularly, so you would have heard us at a discussion about the fact that it does seem for a lot of the discussions that economics was the main consideration, not necessarily the social well-being, not necessarily the mental well-being.
No.
And so when the policies were being put in place, a lot of it was being put in place, of course, by health officials because it's a health crisis. But also the ones who were being consulted were the economists.
Not only consulted, the one who was exerting the most pressure.
Yeah, of course.
They ain't got to ask them nothing. By the time they start to watch who own the millions and see where the market, look at it going to drop down. You know?
Right. So
that the issue of livelihood over thing, that gone to the next time we have a thing, just expect more people to die. That's what it is, you know? Next time, because there's going to be any resistance to try to put in place measures that save lives. By now, they're dead.
Well, I don't think so. I think what would have to happen what I'm saying is, I do believe that, of course, but what I'm saying is, if you want to change that narrative, then what you would have to do is create a situation where it's more profitable for lives to be saved than to be lost.
That's a hard mix based on the infection, eh?
Well, not necessarily.
Based on the epidemic, what caused it, eh?
Yeah.
In some cases, you could operate with it.
Not only well, that's what I'm saying. I think you have to make it more about, again, there being a direct correlation between economic prosperity and saving lives. I think that's the climate we have to create. It can't just be business as usual moving forward, because again, that incentivizes certain, let's say, risky actions. And again, what you're bringing up is very important during the time. Even that whole discussion, lives versus livelihood, we still haven't really answered that question. But you
will see what one livelihood one, you know.
Livelihood one.
Livelihood, well, not one positively. What I mean in terms of the livelihood.
So if livelihood one, what you're saying is moving forward, you don't think we'll have policies like perhaps the total lockdown and that time going forward? You think if livelihood won that discussion, then we can have the things that threaten livelihood going?
We lack preparation. We lack preparation. You know, even now, our government should start to build up buffers. You understand?
But that's the point I'm making. But we can't do that until we have a full examination of what happened and speak to the questions that were raised during that time. So we come up with some answers, and then once we have those answers, we use those to inform best practices.
You could start it here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that And people got to be rational.
Boy, that's a big aspect.
Because I'm saying, oh, who dead? Who dead is
that's a
not,
big- that's a
cannot
big
be any
aspect.
solution. Not who dead.
You're hurting head with that there now. Rationality? Come on. Wow.
that gone with Corona.
Oh,
No, but, so I feel for everybody involved, Because how do you replace the people who gone? It ain't just people. People got skills, people got assets, you know what I mean? It isn't just numbers,
people contributed there's people who contributed significantly to the lives and livelihoods of persons who are no longer here due to COVID. So it's a big loss. The problem I have is because
that's what I'm saying. How do you quantify it?
you can't. But the problem is that the loss was so. It was just all over. It's almost like you get lost in the shuffle unless it was somebody who was really close to you personally. But I think the wider society sees COVID at this whole big dark period.
You're right, and they say people are numbers, numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Numbers, not individual. But I beg the Lord, please help us here and do what we can to keep our environment clean. And some steps that have to be taken will be taken. We might as well know that.
Yeah.
Everything is not democracy. Believe me. Because imagine that today in November, in China, millions of people locked down. And you would say, well, they were ahead first. They want to have zero. And that, China is the world next power. And they want to have, and even in the U.S., we just complain, so and so had, the hundreds of thousands of people who lost their job who work for the federal government.
Yeah.
I think sometimes because we're not small island, this thing had a great impact. Now, how do we deal with it if it comes up again? Because right now they're having both influenza and corona, you know that, right?
Yeah, but
in the U.S., they start dying by the hundreds again, going up to the thousands.
Yeah, and
I prefer the people.
Yeah, that's what we could do, because unfortunately, what you're suggesting, I don't know if that exercise is happening, and it almost feels as though, like I said, it was such a traumatic period that it might be difficult for us to look back and to properly assess.
Right, because
forward.
Right, because you see, you can't name people what you do, no? That's another thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right then.
All right, thanks for your contribution. Appreciate it. All right, guys. Well, we talk about Corona. We talk Corona too. I don't even want to say the word. Those words almost at one point felt synonymous. I remember it was almost like people felt like at one point you catch Corona, it was like a death sentence. How serious it was at one particular point. But we live, we learn. It's wow, it was that. But we're really gonna have to take some time, examine the response. The problem is because a lot of this is going to be instigated by politicians. If it is the administration that was in power during the time of COVID, then there's a certain slant towards, well, this was the best we could do, and to justify the actions. If it's a different administration, then there's a slant towards trying to figure out what they should have done and why they didn't do it that way. And a lot of times, unfortunately, I suspect that is where the discussions stop. As opposed to, okay, we see what was done. We now know that there are certain considerations that we have to take into account. Out of that experience, there were certain questions that came up, not only from a health standpoint, not only from an economic standpoint, but even just us as a society. How do we feel about certain things? How do we feel about the question of lives versus livelihoods? There were people saying up in the country, whoever get it, let them dead. Like literally, I think people people that I know said, was saying that, just, let them dead. If they want to take the vaccine, let them dead. Or if they want to eat properly, if they want to spend the last 10 years becoming diabetic, obese, and generally unhealthy, then, who thought that? I literally was having these conversations with people. I don't know, as a society, what was the final verdict on that kind of question. So, these are the things we're going to have to examine and then figure out what is our position moving forward. Because I think we can't just leave the pressure to make decisions in these types of situations up to persons who really and truly aren't prepared for it. We can't claim ignorance the next time. So, again, hopefully, whatever is put in place, we don't have to use it, and this is all just in the past, and at no point in our lives we'll have to face something like this again. And hopefully, through technology and medicine and science, we don't have to ever face these things again, ever, as a human species. But that's a really big hope. So we got to hope for the best and prepare for the worst. So let's get that going and happening. But guys, it's tea time. I think I need to work on my vibrato by. Anyway, we're gonna read an article from winmediaskn.com. It says, St. Kitts and Nevis Prime Minister expanding relations with Republic of China, Taiwan, on 4-day visit. It says a delegation from St. Kitts and Nevis is in the Republic of China, Taiwan, for a 4-day state visit, which started with the journey to Taiwan on November 5th. On his inaugural trip to Taiwan, Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Terence Drew, reported that the visit to the country has been fruitful. The Prime Minister said he and his delegation had several high-level meetings with the President of Taiwan, Her Excellency, Dr. In Guen, Taiwan's Premier, the Minister of Mainland Affairs, and Minister of Foreign Affairs. Taiwan's President and Vice President hosted a state luncheon followed by a welcome ceremony on November 8th with military honors and bilateral talks. At the welcome ceremony, Dr. Drew said it was an honor to visit the Federation's developmental partner. This state visit to Republic of China, Taiwan is significant in more ways than one. It strengthens the solid platform built for well over 3 decades, which allows us to implement projects under the broad rubric of functional cooperation. It also places us at the threshold of a new era of enhanced partnership, where we consider creative solutions to the challenges which threaten to prevent us from achieving our development objectives, said the Prime Minister at the military salute held in honor of the Federation in Taiwan. The Prime Minister said that the Federation could not deny the rich legacy of technical and financial assistance, capacity building, and international advocacy Taiwan has imparted since the Federation's independence 39 years ago, sharing that many have benefited from scholarships to pursue undergraduate and graduate degrees to then return to the Federation and contribute to the country's development. While other countries are endowed with rich mineral resources, our people and our resource base, it is therefore prudent for us to continually strive to build our human resource capacity. We are eternally grateful to the government and the people of the Republic of China, Taiwan, for their valuable assistance in achieving this objective. All right, well, and someone was asking me this yesterday, actually, day before yesterday, and it says that the delegation, as part of the trip, would also meet with Kittitian and Division students at the embassy of St. Kitts and Nevis. Yeah. All right, well, yes, so the work is being done in Taiwan. I do believe that it's going to be interesting how these partnerships continue to develop, particularly with Taiwan. Everyone knows that tensions have been rising between mainland China and Taiwan. And it does feel as though the rest of the world is being asked to join the class, pick a side. And Taiwan is definitely one of our main foreign partners. I keep wondering, how is it that we can even strengthen those ties in a way outside of some of the grants that they've given, and allowing the amount of scholarships. It come like almost, I think most of us would know somebody who went to Taiwan to study. The program has been going on so long and has benefited so many people that it does feel as though we've all had someone, 1, 2, 3, the most degrees of separation, who has been to Taiwan to study. I'm wondering if we are going to see in the near future policies to invite Taiwanese businessmen to and other industry to set up here, because we're always talking about the Chinese. But I mean, the Chinese migrants are pretty much everywhere. I went to Sabre and I went to Stacia. There's definitely Chinese supermarket even in Stacia, so you can't escape. But there does seem to be, when it comes to economics, in terms of businesses and other economic activity, it does seem that we see a lot more of that happening with Chinese immigrants as opposed to Taiwanese. So I wonder if that is something that is being looked at. How y'all feel about that? If the government was to foster, let's say, bring in key expertise through industry. For instance, we keep talking about the need to develop agriculture. Is that something that we could draw on from business people in Taiwan? We keep talking about the fact that one way we could compete is in engineering. We do understand that Taiwan also has a lot of technological innovation happening there. And they're very key to the world. Of course, everybody talk about the microchips and stuff like that. Are those skills and expertise that we could draw on to help develop some industry here? There's been talk about diversification and so forth and so forth and so forth. And perhaps those are some of the ways that we could that could be a show of support as well, as opposed to constantly accepting the generosity of the Taiwanese government through their embassy and ambassadors. But who knows? I know. All I do is come on the radio and bang them out. Man, and I don't know. I don't know nothing about these international affairs. We're the international affairs people. They should be the ones who giving commentary on this. Speaking of which, this is a whole other tangent. I just mentioned the fact that we have so many of our locals going off and studying. A lot of them do return. A lot of them, that is part of the arrangement for them to be able to return. When we start having a lot of these discussions, yes, it is important for us when we go by the barber shops, when we go by the hair salons, when we go by the when we go to the stores and when we line on the blocks, to have discussions about things that are happening in the country. But I always wonder why we don't see more commentary from the, let's say, educated society. Is it for fear of blowback? Because any type of criticism is seen as an attack on the government, and any sort of praise is seen as capitulation, or what we say, singing for your supper. So is it a matter that that is why we see so many, even though we have so many learned people who have studied, whether it's law, economics, sociology, criminology, all of these different disciplines, project management, urban development. We have people with all these skills. Is there a reason why we don't see more commentary coming out of those spaces? And perhaps if the fear of blowback is one of the main things, then perhaps what we need to do is to foster societies. So a society of economists, society of the nation's sociologists, we have the Bar Association, etc. So we do have some similar groups. But I would like to know sometimes, what do the people who actually have the expertise in some of these areas feel about what is happening? It could be a place for them to continually make informed suggestions as to how to deal with certain things. Even when we hear talking about, hey, perhaps we need to do a actual study on how things are handled with COVID. These would have been resources that we could pull on. And so maybe that takes away some of the, at least, feeling of partisanship, if it's an individual doing it. Again, somebody just come on the radio and bang me out. I don't know what I'm saying. Let me just read somebody's article that somebody smarter than me wrote. And I move on. But before I do, let's see what this caller has to say. Good morning, caller. Are you an economist?
Good morning. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. I'm doing well. I'm saying, are you an economist?
Not really economist. I just a little boy that have ideas and can't get them work.
And we.
Now, you were just mentioned something about the relationship between St. Kitts and Taiwan. Now, Taiwan is an industrialized country. Taiwan, I must say, is an industrialized country.
I think it would qualify as such.
Okay, good. We got this relationship for so many years. We have people going over there to study. They can get, instead of taking money and gifts from them, they can take a gift of some kind of manufacturing plant here that will benefit St. Kitts plus the region.
I think what is happening, I think there's actually, or at least used to be, a policy which discouraged that. So, for instance, we have the Taiwanese that have the agro-processing, they do the Taiwanese farm.
Yeah, I know.
But the scale is very small. I think the reason for that is the way in which I don't know if it's a law or policy, but I think it kind of limited, that certain industrial pursuits. So I think that's why they had to kind of keep it under wraps, keep it to a certain level. So perhaps that's something that we need to look at if it hasn't been addressed. But I think that was really because of some policy or some law that forbid scaling up certain things by those people who have those relationships with.
Okay, but when you look at, I don't know if my information is right, but the same Taiwan farm, Nevis, and the Eco Park, that then belongs to St. Kitts government now.
I don't know who belongs to. I don't know the ownership agreement and
I think a few years ago they wanted we to take it over, and the minister at the point in time say he wasn't ready for that yet. But I don't know if it had eventually happened.
I mean, ownership is one thing, but and then management is another thing. So it might be a matter that it's I guess owned by the government, but managed by our Taiwanese by the Taiwanese commissioner embassy. I don't know. I don't know how that works.
You see, the problem, as you mentioned, agriculture. Now we have to look at the size of our population, the production costs, competing with things that coming from overseas. Because if you realize, it was said during the COVID boats them are still coming. But they were telling me as a farmer, I can't go on my farm. If I do go, I only could spend 1 or 2 hours on my farm. I mean, me alone on my farm, taking care of the farm from all kind of different predators. So, in a sense now, for the amount of time I locked down, and I did limited time on my farm, the farm run away, but the boat come in. If you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I got you.
Because around here, the subsidization from the government to compete with what coming in our match. So when it comes to local produce, whether poultry, the meat, the only thing working out is the fresh fish. But other things, because young people like wrong provision, you know, so when you really look at producing, is the consumption.
But I mean, so to me, you're touching on a lot of different things. You're touching on the cost of production. You're touching on market research, meaning, hey, what is it that consumers even want? Are we planting what it is that the consumers actually want to buy? Has it come to a point where what a lot of our farmers are growing there isn't a demand for it locally because our eating patterns have shifted? So I don't know.
So that's the problem in agriculture.
Well, I think you're outlining several problems, sir.
No, because the reason why I say that is everybody wants to go into agriculture, but who's going to consume what they plant? And what they into?
Do you believe that we need to? I'll give you two scenarios. One, do you believe that we need to draw on expertise from some of our foreign partners, either to improve our production techniques or to go into different industries in agriculture, agro-processing, etc.? Or do you believe that we need to look at perhaps limiting import for certain goods that are produced locally as a way to kind of ensure that what we have here gets sold? Do you believe those two scenarios are something that we should look into?
It is possible that it could happen, but then is the mindset of the farmers. Will they willing to come together to plant certain things to get them ready for the market by a certain time, so they will be consistent in the production?
So you're saying not only for any trade issues, because of course, you know, we have trade issues where we have like, hey, based on the treaty that we have, it's gonna be difficult for us to put an embargo on this or that, right? So outside of that, you're saying part of the issue is going to be ensuring that we have not only the level of production, but the mindset of the farmers to a place where they can take on the responsibility that would be put on them?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So because if you want to stop the ship, you must be able to have it to say, you have it here.
Right. And you
must have it in abundance to produce on time for a period of time.
Right.
So if you say, well, I'm going to ban peppers for 6 months, you must be able to supply for the 6 months.
So what I'm saying is that you have not seen unequivocally that we are prepared to handle that responsibility. That's something we have to work towards.
We have to work toward it
Okay.
with wholeheartedly. We have to go towards that.
Okay.
Wholeheartedly, we have to go towards that.
Okay, fair enough. I learning, I listen to you.
No, because you can't ask a man to help you when you want to help yourself.
Fair.
You understand what I'm saying? Because if you can say, oh, the government should ban this, but you're producing it. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, you gotta first start to help yourself before you ask a man for help. Because me ain't gonna got 2 buckets of sand and me sitting down and me tell a man, buy one help, and when he take up one, me say we not care with the other one. You understand?
Right.
Yeah, listen, we got a serious problem in St. Kitts, eh? And people just talk and they don't look at the root why we has a problem.
Mm. Yeah, we
Because
generally don't operate in that way. I could agree with that.
Yeah, and in some instances, you have people that has the potential, but people in the top bracket will realize that little fella gonna come a millionaire, so I'm gonna put obstacles in the way that he'll never make it. That's another problem we got.
Well.
That's another. People will tell you that's another problem we got. Because you got people who got the potential, and all they need is a signature. And that's just a signature, you know. Just a signature they need. They got all the other resources. All they need is a signature for the green light. And they can't get it.
Well, but there's all sorts of obstacles, I could tell you, as somebody who involved in
I know you know what I'm talking about, because you're involved in an industry which sometimes just need a signature as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll continue listening, continue enjoying you there. Stay positive.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for calling. Thanks for your contribution. So someone is saying here that import taxes might be better than full bans. Leaves an opportunity for competition. I do know that that has been put in. At least that's in place for some things. So there's tariffs that are in place for certain goods, and stuff like that. Oh, somebody said, "Oh, tell me about it. That has happened to me." I think a lot of entrepreneurs have the stories about how all they needed was one bit of cooperation from an understanding individual, and couldn't get it. But yeah, that's a story for another day. Good morning, caller. You're live on Island T. What's up?
Good morning. I'm back again.
Morning.
Taiwan is more an agricultural country, you know. They're just getting into industry. And many of the things they produce are produced within households. So when you go to the exhibition, you see certain things, and you might think it's a large factory. Could be a family business. Now, in terms of agriculture, the Taiwanese since 1980, 82, 83, they have introduced so many new technologies, methods, plants. But our people, you know. Not everybody, but most of the farmers are unwilling to make a sacrifice and to remain committed. They just want you put some potato vine in the ground, you go back sometime, and you reap.
It seems to me what you're describing. It seems like what you're describing to me is either a culture that surrounds agriculture or a mindset of the people involved in agriculture.
And don't talk about the amount of money that has been invested by other agencies. I recall when I used to work. You know, agriculture school is in St. Augustine, UWI.
Yeah.
Not in Trinidad. And sometimes they go to Jamaica or Guyana. And they have come here, done a lot of training, made us talking about piece of training. Even the one with the costing, they know the cost. But they already decide $5 a pound for everything. So that there'll never be any correlation between the cost of production and the price of sell at. They already decide. When they want to know the price, they go into one of the supermarkets and they determine the price in there.
Well, that's a recipe for poverty buy.
You understand? I mean, pumpkin $5, this $5, everything $5. They know the cost of production because they have been taught how to calculate it, so nobody fool you. And as for the rotation of the crops, the agriculture department, they're tired. They're tired. People feel just the same kind of rebellious attitude. I will do what I want to do. And in the end, they lose because you have gluts. They're tired trying. But what they figure, well, how Azim could plant potato and I can't plant. They didn't say you can't plant, you know, but your planting must coincide with when Azim is reaping. You follow?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we're selfish by nature. Selfish. That's why we suffer like that. And you wish, look, you have AICA, you have CARDI, you have the government, you have the universities. Very few, God bless Armstrong and the others who stick with it. You know, we used to grow rice here.
Yeah, I've actually heard that before, yeah.
Yeah, the Taiwanese introduced dryland rice. I had been on a rice farm where farmers used to hundreds of pounds of rice, sell rice locally. But you know what the younger ones said to me? That they too much, they got to bend their back too much. Make $1 they prefer to plant Tanya and yam and dashin.
Even though people don't eat them as they once did.
You understand? So to make the effort, what is needed, in Taiwan they don't ask you what you're going to do, you know. I remember when I was in UK, I did a term paper, I didn't even know. I see Taiwan down here, I thought Taiwan was democratic. I was in the 80 to 83. So I did my paper on agricultural development in Taiwan. And I was most surprised. When they say you're going to plant the species of rice, is that. And if you plant any other thing, the police come and haul them up and lock you up. They determine what they want, how they want. So they are more disciplined. Our people, everybody want to do what they like.
Well, I mean, freedom. Everything has a cost, right? Everything has a cost, including freedom.
Yeah, but I think, you see, we don't understand what freedom is. Freedom is never to do as you like.
Right.
It is acting responsibly.
Right.
That's freedom.
I think a lot of times when I hear people describe what they think freedom is, it sounds like chaos.
Lawlessness. Because the Bible says every man did that which was right in his own eyes. You can imagine that. Now let's get to the licensing and so. We are a member of the World Trade Organization, WTO.
Yeah.
You cannot restrict trade.
Right.
So you got, before time they used to put the license in and all of that. However, what I learned when I went to India is that tariff, they use tariff. You see like how, what you name, Trump and India?
Yeah, that's the point
China?
I was making. But we have some tariffs on some imports right now, though.
Yeah, you could use tariff.
Right.
You can't use quotas. You could use quotas, you know, until somebody complains. But so all they have to do is to tariff. You put a tariff on the goods that compete with our goods to make them more expensive. But usually we don't sit down and watch everybody do everything. You know, and our farmers, they're still too selfish. Thank God there are a few young men who have cooperatives, right?
Mm-hmm.
I commend them. Because if the older ones were doing cooperatives, they'd be better organized. It would be 12 less people competing against themselves. You know, have 12 people working together. And they're able to monitor the market. They have media where they could sell and whatever. So I want our people to really, if you're not interested in agriculture, give up the land, let somebody else get it who is interested in it. And we need commercial, people don't like to be said so, we need commercial agriculture. You know what I mean by commercial?
Yeah, I mean I've been singing the same song here. I've been singing the same song here.
Piece. Putting them all in the gut where they want. You need large farms.
Instead of everything is subsistence.
You can't even feed your own subsistence. The cost of production is higher.
Yep, that's the point.
You know, you want to use machines. I remember the Taiwanese had even begun to sell them tractors and things and so. Some of them still want their hoe.
Let me ask you a question. Do you believe
the young farmers, they got to do better?
Do you believe, for instance, of course, this is something that we see happening in some of the other countries, particularly with China and their foreign affairs policies, right? The foreign policies. But do you believe that we should encourage, even if it's limited, let's use Taiwan as an example. So limited Taiwanese business persons, investors to set up businesses here?
We should direct them. You know. We can say what areas we want foreign investment in.
No. But what I'm saying is, it's one thing. It's one thing if you were to say, for instance, we know we get training. You spoke to a lot of training that we get from some of our foreign partners, particularly Taiwan, right?
Mm-hmm.
We get grants, we get loans, investment, education, these kind of things. Do you think it should the government should consider inviting key Taiwanese business persons to set up companies here?
Yes, but not in the area they're going in, eh? So as you say, now we have had women who work on the industrial side, soldering or whatever. They might be able to function in some of these electronic plants that maybe they have in Taiwan.
All right.
And why we can't do business with China too? Or China putting pressure on other countries?
Well, I think a lot of us don't recognize the dynamic that exists there. Like, a lot of us don't recognize that there's definitely a dynamic at work there. Where countries try to foster positive relations between both China and Taiwan.
Yeah.
But there's definitely a dynamic there. I mean, I remember one time in Dominica, they were opening a project that was funded by, I think they actually have relations with China. I think it was with China. And they played at the opening ceremony, they played the Taiwanese national anthem instead. But it was a huge that was no small thing. That was a huge thing.
I know. You remember Grenada?
Heavy fallout. Like
Grenada used to have a relationship with Taiwan, and China make them a better offer. And they pick it up, and Taiwan took them to the court and got possession of the airport.
Yep.
Taiwan said, all right, you can go where you want to go. Pay me all what you owe me, pay me now.
Yep.
And they couldn't.
And I don't think people recognize these dynamics that exist.
Yeah,
they just think, invite the Chinese, invite the Taiwanese. Like, these are serious political situations that we navigate in.
Look, the country's small, because some countries have both China and Taiwan.
Yeah, but that was saying some countries.
In these countries, our I want to say leadership, but some people can take it as an offense. They're not trained to negotiate, you know. They cannot negotiate. So they buckle on, they will put the most pressure.
Well,
Both of them?
I think we're going to have to take a moment and try to determine what our leverage is when we go into some of these scenarios, and determine what they were, what that is worth.
What is in our best interest?
Yeah. And also have a clear plan for what it is we try to achieve through these negotiations and these partnerships. Yeah. For instance, and we talk about it all the time. We constantly hear about our foreign affairs ministers developing relationships with this country and that country, and then sometimes you have to stop and ask yourself, okay, how does this play into our overall
development?
Yeah, and what's the purpose? It does a lot of times feel like it's just a notch on the belt of the minister, or
not really.
It's just a way to make our passports more attractive.
With that.
Yeah.
By now we should have been having cultural exchange. You know what I mean?
Right. So what the nature of that relationship is, and how do we stand to benefit? How do we stand to benefit? I think those things sometimes are questions that are left unanswered.
There's something the people do, you know. The people in the country. The people in the country act unconcerned.
Yeah.
You know, only a few people say, well, when you're going to bring some cultural exchange or whatever.
Yeah, but the truth is for the most part, but the truth is for the most part, most people genuinely have bigger fish to fry. And that's so
when you're frying shark, you got to put some sprat in the oil We got to do better, you know.
Yes, we have to. We have
Put
to.
some spread in there because, you see, and another thing, as I say, our people are not trained. We ain't got enough trained people. We let people do all kind of stuff that we're paying for. If you know you need a stronger contingent of people in foreign affairs, you direct them there.
Mm-hmm.
You direct them there, and you see that they're trained, but you sometimes you say the government is very mean, you know. I don't mean this government. You know, people go and do international relations, right? And they might want to go and do the master. They're telling you, you got to resign to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
You got to go pay to go do that, to go come out of our country. Is this, so you find that in the civil service, a lot of people got first degree can get to things because they want to give up their little job when you're at the development bank to go and do your masters to come back and develop the country.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we don't think, we just thinking want people under our heel.
Well, again, like you're saying, I think sometimes what happens is we recognize that people have certain expertise, but it's not really about empowering the people to implement the knowledge that they would have gained. I think the system is set up in a way where, unfortunately, sometimes it's not a matter of your experience and qualification that puts you in position to best utilize what you have, what you've gained. Yeah. So there's a lot of these factors.
When you see some other countries here have so many in foreign affairs. By the way, who is this lady who is the permanent UN ambassador? Who is she?
No idea. Maybe I just have no idea. Yes. But what is so like I feel like I really don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know. But I said to myself, wait, I never heard the name. You know? And I said it. This scandal that goes to the Caribbean, I'm not saying the person is one, is that when government change, people of money and influence ask to be made ambassadors and consulars so that they give them more freedom to move. They ain't really got no interest per se. The people in the country don't know them. How could you represent me and I don't know you?
Well, things we have to look at.
Not a contentious thing, but just saying, I hear the name, I never heard of one before.
No, but I think that is usually a discussion that has been ongoing. Ambassadors, the roles, the embassy, and what is our. When I say our, talking about the country as a whole. What is our foreign policy and our foreign relations objectives?
We don't even know some of them. Yeah, bilateral relations in what? Trade?
Mm-hmm.
In what? In investment? In what? Now, when you ask those questions, as you're talking about people who should be speaking up, people who know put people who don't know to harass you. So you keep quiet.
Yeah, that's why I said the only way that I could see that actually happening is if we have groups, unions. That's probably the closest. That's probably the closest we'll get to that type of that type of contribution.
In other countries, right? They have economic societies. Even in Jamaica, the integrity thing is a private thing. You know, they have different. We got all kind of lawyer thing. They don't say nothing because every time they open them out, the people in charge put the hounds on them. And we like to get personal.
Right, but listen, maybe I'm gonna have to go. We actually have a guest in the studio with us for the next segment.
Guess I say good morning.
All right, we'll do. All right, guys, we're actually gonna take a short break and be right back with more Island Tea right after this. So stay locked, stay tuned, don't go anywhere.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
All out! Horseman's Building in Nevis Centers is going all out for 3 days. This Thursday, 10th November, Friday, 11th November, and Saturday, 12th November, with 25% off store-wide on all discountable items. Yes, Horseman's Building in Nevis Centers are going all out with 25% off store-wide on all discountable items for 3 days only. Horseman's Building Center, Nevis Center, is going all out for 3 days. This weekend, starting this Thursday, 10th November, Friday, 11th November, and Saturday, 12th November. Go early and grab the deals before they're all out. All out! Don't miss it. Terms and conditions apply. See store for details.
Morning, guys. Morning. Welcome back to Island Tea right here on Win Media SKN. Guys, I have in studio with us a very special lady, no stranger to Island Tea, none other than the lovely Shannon Harley. Good morning.
Morning, Azam. Morning to your listeners.
Well, I know that when you come in here, we're talking sugar mass, we're talking all the amazing things that are happening, and I know especially as we get closer to the time where Sugar Mass officially kicks off and we fully enjoy our carnival. People are looking forward to any updates, anything that you have to say in relation to that specifically. What's going on?
Well, so much Azam since the last time I've been here. We have gotten the ball rolling heavy and hard and frequent. We are just under 1 month away from the official opening of National Carnival, which will take place on the 2nd of December at Carnival Village. But we have so many events that will be occurring during the month of November. I just wanted to come in and update the public as to where we are as of today. Last night, everyone knows that we launched the 5 contestants for the National Queen Pageant. Next week, we'll be launching the contestants for the National Swimwear Pageant. We've launched the Talented Teen contestants 2 weeks ago, and they've created quite the buzz, in addition to the National Queen contestants last night. And you will be seeing so much more of these contestants as the weeks go by, getting to know each of these contestants intimately, understand their likes and dislikes. So we're looking forward to that. But we also have a number of competitions happening. We have our FaceTime Makeup Artists competition, which started on the 7th, which was Monday. And of course, makeup artists in the Federation tag the National Carnival Committee between the 7th and 21st of November, and of course get a chance to win $4,000, $2,000 for each segment. Last year, that competition was extremely popular, so we look forward to having the makeup artists do their thing and posting on social media, tagging National Carnival Sugar Mass 51, so that we can repost and find a winner for the FaceTime competition. So right now, we are in prep stage, full-fledged prep stage. We are planning all of the events for National Carnival. We are sleepless nights as usual, but it's all worth it. You know that the street activities are back and in full force. So there is the Juve the Grand Parade and Last Lap, as well as the Children's Carnival, which will take place on the 31st of December. This weekend, we have the Sugar Mass Awards, the first annual or the inaugural Sugar Mass Awards, where we will be honoring over 60 individuals who have made a significant contribution to National Carnival over the past 51 years. So we're looking forward to that. We know that that event was supposed to take place last year for our 50th anniversary. However, due to circumstances beyond our control, we had to shift it to this year, and we're really looking forward to that award ceremony. It's a formal event at the St. Kitts Marriott Resort, and it's our opportunity to give individuals their flowers who have contributed to Sugar Mass. Of course, we cannot honor everyone this year because there's so many people, there's so many stakeholders who deserve to be honored. However, this year is our first year, and it's a start, and it'll take us about 3-4 years before we get to the number of stakeholders, whether it is MCs or hosts and, behind the scenes individuals, volunteers, pageants, calypsonians, folklore, chairpersons who have been involved in the past. So many involved, from administration to street activities. So we're looking forward to that award ceremony this Saturday. It will be streamed live on social media, so individuals get the opportunity to tune in and see who will be awarded this weekend. So we're looking forward to the inaugural Sugar Mass Awards, SMAs, as we call it, this weekend.
All right. Well, I know that is something that persons have been looking forward to. And what time and what platform could persons tune in and view that?
Yeah, so it will be at 8 p.m. on the National Carnival, SKN Carnival Facebook page. It will be live on our Facebook page at 8 p.m. and also on ZIZ Online. So we're really, really looking forward to this opportunity to honor those who have assisted and contributed to where we are as of today. That's what we'll be doing this Saturday. And then it just moves on from there. We have a number of bar stops every weekend, all week, every weekend, from now until the end of November, when we get into the real heat of the Sugar Mass. We have the eliminations for the Soca Monarch competition early December, as well as the eliminations for the Calypso competition. We also have deadlines in place, as deadlines for Road March, which we felt that it was important to introduce deadlines, because we did not want Road March songs to be released 2 days before Road March. So we have implemented deadlines, and we have the next Friday as the first deadline for the submission of songs for those who are registered Road March contenders, and then the 25th of November, which is the deadline for the release of all Road March songs on local radio. So we're really looking forward to that, because we have essentially doubled the Road March winnings from 2019 to make sure that we have as much contribution as possible from the Road March contenders. So we're looking forward to that in the next week, 2 weeks.
I know a lot of the carnival music lovers are really appreciative of that. That's been something that has been a discussion for quite some time. They sometimes some bands may release a bit late considering the fact that sometimes up to 2 days before Christmas we still haven't heard contributions. But this really does seem like a push in the right direction, and I know it's really appreciated from a lot of music lovers.
Yeah, we know that especially this year, the bands have had some issues relating to the release of their music, financial and otherwise. And taking that into consideration, we suggested the 25th date for the release of the songs, which is it's still short notice. It's still a short time frame. It's 1 month before Juve, which would be when the Road March is judged officially. Yeah. So Road March is judged on Juve morning only, and then the winner is announced on the last lap. Right. So it gives the bands 1 month for their fans to learn their music and get in the mood, because it is the bands and it is the calypsonians and the entertainers who all make Carnival. You cannot rely on the National Carnival Committee alone.
Yeah, and I'm sure that the bands are putting, and not only the bands but also other Road March contenders putting the final touches on the songs, those who haven't released yet, because I know there are some releases that have already happened. So I know we could expect within the next few weeks some great carnival music coming out.
From both the bands and the Calypsonians. We know that
Right.
Legends Calypso tent started last Saturday.
Right.
And we look forward to Proud Sounds tent this weekend. I think they are launching. And we hope to have about 15 or 16 tents between the two bands. So we know that when Calypso tent start is officially the start of carnival season.
man,
So
the
we're looking
season's starting.
forward to the more and more Calypso tents. And we know that prior to this year, for the past 2 years, the Calypso tents were produced by the National Carnival Committee because of COVID-19. However, the Calypso tents have gone back into the communities and are being produced once again in small, intimate settings by the bands themselves, Legends and Proud Sounds. So we're looking forward to that as well.
All right, awesome.
Going out and supporting is important.
Well, like you said, that's when carnival kick off, for a lot of people, Once them 10 start, that's
Absolutely. I mean, there's so many stakeholders, as you are aware, who are involved in National Carnival. It's about the Calypsonians, the folklore element, the vendors. We had a massive meeting last night with over 100 vendors who have registered to be back on the street for National Carnival, where last night we announced that in collaboration with the Ministry of Planning, and much discussion, we are going to allow vendors back on the streets for a period of 2 weeks over the National Carnival period between the 19th of December and the 3rd of January. Okay. So we met with those vendors who have registered last evening, massive meeting at Warner Park, and we were able to update the vendors on a number of really important matters to do with, vendors, food handlers permits, fees, what is required, what we expect, because, as you walk through town right now, there are no vendors.
Right.
So we want to make sure that vendors operate over that 2-week period in a structured format. And we want to make sure that the vendors really, collaborate and really we take into consideration all stakeholders, whether it's the pedestrians, the many businesses around town.
And the patrons.
Exactly. We also spoke last night in that meeting of the proposed extended route and we will be providing the general public more information on that proposed route. But just to give you a sneak peek.
Exclusive.
Yeah. So the route is the proposed route. Once all stakeholders are in agreement, the proposed route is for the Grand Parade is to start in the vicinity of Best Buy Supermarket West, which is at Buckley's, and move along Keon Street into Ponds Extension, and you will turn right on the Paul Southwell Drive, which is beyond the Agro Strip. Right? And then move into the Bay Road, onto the Bay Road, and then downtown. The parade will start at 11 a.m. And as such, we hope that by the time the parade gets to downtown, it is dusk, because we have more and more trucks in these troops.
Yeah,
the troops
are
are
so many troops
increasing. Yeah, troops are increasing and getting larger. Having much more, whether it's a 40-foot flatbed, much more trucks, and whether it's moving portable toilets, etc., on the road, we feel that it is very important to move more on the outskirts of Bastia rather than circling downtown Bastia, which it has some safety concerns for the authorities. So
just logistics. I mean, the head of the tail might meet up with the body by the time it already wrap around town.
Exactly, and it's just and then you have to take into consideration pedestrians. The streets are narrower. We have to take into consideration the issues with overcrowding. So we want to make sure that everybody who is a part of our Grand Parade, whether you're a spectator or a reveler or a vendor, everybody is safe. So we're giving much more room for vendors to spread out along the route. We're giving much more space for our revelers to have a grand time after being inside for 2 years. And we're also giving much more space for our spectators to observe, to look on, instead of being cramped on whether it's 4th Street, downtown Bastia. So we look forward to having discussions with the relevant stakeholders about this proposed route, and we are pretty confident that everybody will be in agreement that the National Carnival Grand Parade has definitely outgrown Downtown Bastille in terms of circling.
Right.
And we have so many more opportunities to spread out and have a good time in a safe way. So we're looking at that. And of course, we're also looking at ways in which we can enhance our Juve route. And that is a discussion that we will have shortly with our bands and Juve troop leaders, hopefully next week, for their input as to how we can better the Juve route and the Juve parade route for everyone as well.
All right, awesome. I mean, there's definitely a lot of evolution happening, and I think it's a lot of evolution that we welcome. Sometimes people say change is bad, but I don't think that's always the case. Sometimes change is necessary, and I think you're outlining that we've reached a point where a lot of these things are really all about the enhancement of the carnival product and ensuring one safety, ensuring people just at the end of the day have the best possible time as they come out and revel.
Definitely, absolutely, and that is really what is most important for us. And then, of course, there are the over 40 registered private events on the National Carnival calendar, and we look forward to those private events. Again, another stakeholder whose events are critical to the overall National Carnival product. There is only so much that we can do as the National Carnival Committee. So we're really looking forward to all events that are listed on the National Carnival calendar being executed and coming off and being supported by the general public, those who live here and those who will be flying in over the National Carnival period.
Awesome. Well, it does seem like there is just a lot happening, and you don't even have to wait until next month. Things are happening right now. Things don't start.
Yeah,
Things don't start,
absolutely.
Guys. And you by chance, you know where the bar stop is going to be this weekend?
The bar stop this weekend is so we have tonight. They're gonna be at Gijo's for a domino tournament, and then this weekend we'll be in Sandy Point Rum Dog, and I can just tell you exactly where we will be. So this weekend the bars will be. So tonight will be Gijo's, and then tomorrow will be. Saturday will be Link Up Bar and Rum Dog in Sandy Point. So that's on Saturday the 12th. Then next Thursday we'll be at Barry's.
All right.
The following Saturday will be Nevis for 5-in-1, and we'll also do a bar hop in Nevis as well. So we're all out. All of our committee's volunteers are working really, really hard to ensure that National Carnival is executed and executed well.
All right. Well, I mean, it's just so much happening. There is a lot going on. People are definitely excited. You could feel the excitement in the air. And of course, guys, like I said, Calypso done start. The Carnival Committee is just building the carnival vibes as they move around from bar to bar, event to event. So best way to keep in touch with what's happening is, of course, the social media pages.
Social media and our website to find all of the important information like rules and regulations. So social media pages, websites, of course, radio stations like Win FM who have come on board as a sponsor for National Carnival and various radio stations. So keep it locked and stay tuned for really what will be the biggest, best National Carnival Sugar Mass 51 in the history of Carnival.
Boom, bam. There we have it, guys. Shannon, I appreciate it so much. Thank you for coming in and giving us the updates. We look forward to the next time, because we know we're going to be seeing you much more as we reach down to the meat of the matter, right?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
All right, awesome. Guys, we're going to take a short break and be right back with more Island Tea right here on Win Media SKN. Stick and stay, guys.
Celebrating 70 years. Can you believe it? Everyone loves a Shirley biscuit, known for its rich, creamy taste, as well as the iconic house and flower design. We all know Shirley is the perfect on-the-go snack, and it's truly the Caribbean's favorite. Simply put, there's nothing quite like a Shirley biscuit. I can't imagine life without it. I too love my Shirley.
It's the Caribbean flavor. Shirley biscuits make me happy. are them there? We a top man, we take charge. Magnum we drink and we a shell down bars. Blast like a star with some a gallopar. Overdo it, we take it too far. Take charge, take charge.
We a hot gal, we set the trend. Magnum we drink for the top man then. Wine with the style, no stop from spin. Hot blend, back bend, and take charge, take charge.
Magnum tonic wine for the real star them. Take charge, take charge. Must be 18 or older, drink responsibly.
Good morning, guys. Good morning. Welcome back to Island Tea right here on Win Media SKN. It is still Thursday, November 10th, and we're looking forward to wrapping up the show with a very special guest in studio with us this morning. A very busy man, so I'm glad that he was able to come and hang out with us and slip us into his schedule. We have with us the Honorable Senator Garth Wilkin, the Attorney General and Minister of Justice and Legal Affairs. That's correct again, right?
Perfectly accurate.
All right, awesome. Good morning, man. How are you doing?
I'm well, Azim. Good morning to you. Good morning to the listeners.
Well, I mean, there is a lot happening in around St. Kitts, and I'm sure that you are no exception to that. We just saw that we had, House of Assembly a few days ago, and there were some things happening. What's happening in the legal affairs of the nation? Where are we at with that?
Okay, well, when we started in August, one of the first things that, from my perspective, that we discussed is the legislative agenda of the government. And it was a very long agenda because it had matters that were already in train from the various ministries, and then they also had prospective legislation arising from the manifesto, meaning promises to the people. And now that you get the mandate, you have to fulfill those promises, and some of those promises involve legislative change. So we have a serious legislative agenda. That's why we've already had 2 substantive parliaments, 3 in total, the opening and 2 substantive, and we've passed 7 laws already.
So, the legislative train on the go, obviously. And if for persons listening, what are some of these laws that would have been debated and put into action?
Okay, so let me start with the administrative ones. The Small Business Act was amended so that the minister could be changed to the current minister specifically responsible for small business, and the number of persons in a small business, the maximum number was increased from 25 to 30. The Skipper Act, St. Kitts Investment Promotion Agency, that was amended so that Dr. Douglas, who's the minister responsible for investment, could be the minister. So those are really administrative. Substantively, we had the Domestic Violence Amendment. That was important because we realized that there's a serious problem with domestic violence in the nation. So we met with the necessary technocrats, the persons from the ministry, the police, all the stakeholders, and we found some quick fixes to some issues that arose in terms of access to victims of domestic violence. So we made access available in the Magistrates Court and in the High Court as well. And we made a couple other changes so that we can strengthen the domestic violence protection legislation. We also amended the Companies Act, which had a provision which was unconstitutional, so we fixed that. We also put into force the civil aviation amendments that were necessary for us to get from Category 2 back to Category 1 on the FAA list as a regional, OECS effort. So we did that. We got rid of all of the COVID protocols by way of legislation. And we also gave a church in Sandy Point, Evangelical Faith Church, I believe is the name, statutory power, corporate power to own land and continue to develop. So we've done some of those initial matters we've rectified. We're going to start getting to the meat. And that's why I'm here. I'm here. Jade contacted me and said, she wants me to talk about the anti-corruption agenda. I don't know if you were listening to Parliament, but in Parliament, I let everyone know that last week, I think it was Monday, either Monday or Tuesday last week, I sent the draft brand new Anti-Corruption Act and the draft amendment to the Integrity in Public Life Act, bills, not acts yet, but bills, to civil society. Published it on SKNIS. So when I say civil society, I'm on the Chamber of Industry and Commerce, SKNIPA, the Bar Association, the Christian Council, etc. Just for the initial input before we even present it to Parliament.
Right.
So that's something our team was working hard on. As you know, the part of the manifesto and part of the promise of the new administration is to finally bring into force this anti-corruption, good governance legislative system so that we can hopefully end or at least reduce the corruption in St. Kitts and Nevis.
Oh, all right, so with this, this bill that is being proposed, what is the real goal of it, and also what's the scope of it?
Okay. If you'd allow me, I'd like to start with a conversation you and Jade were having last week. I can't remember how it arose, but I remember you were saying we really need to start doing things to people who are corrupt, not just talking about it. Do you remember that conversation you and Jade had? And you said you don't believe in naming and shaming. And that name and shame thing came from me. It was twisted a little bit because it was taken out of context. When I was speaking at a SKNIPA event, I was speaking on integrity. And then in response to one of the questions, somebody asked that same question, what are you all going to do? And I said, we created legislation. And, some of the things that I've been seeing since I took office August 15th, I'm seeing so much corruption, so much dishonest activity that I just felt like naming people and embarrassing them. Because let me explain why I said that. And I regret saying that. I apologize for saying that. I said it from a position of frustration. I'm somebody that has come from the private sector. And I come from a litigation background. So I've seen dishonest and bad conduct. But I never thought it would be at this level in government. So that happened, that speech was in, that presentation by SKNIPA was I think in September. So it was my early frustrations coming out. And I agree with you, totally. Naming and shaming is not really what a goal should be for anyone in government, but I'm going to change what it is and what I really meant to say. When you are a professional, for example, a lawyer like I am, or a doctor, there are ethical principles which you must follow, a code of ethics, and then there are criminal actions that you should not take. And those are two-tiered. So ethical actions, if you breach those ethical actions, which is dishonesty, bad practice, etc., you can be punished, and your license to practice as a professional could be taken away.
Right.
If you commit a criminal offense, you could go to prison.
Your freedom could be taken away.
Exactly.
Right.
So there are different levels. There has really been no code of ethical conduct for politicians.
Bro, there's not even actual qualifications. So let's.
So all this is leading to what I'm going to say about the bills. If there is a code of conduct in Integrity in Public Life Act, which I will discuss, but if we, as a new government, come in and see wrong, and there is no body other than the people to determine whether somebody should be elected again, or should be appointed again, or should sit in parliament again, or be a minister again, the people need to know what the people before did, so they can then determine whether they want these people to run their affairs and have control of their treasury again. So by telling the people and being open and transparent with them, by naming the people who have done bad, saying what bad they have done, you are really telling the people you need to determine if that kind of conduct is acceptable to you or not. It may be conduct that does not arise to the level of a criminal offense, but it might be dishonest. It might be, it might not even be corruption. It might be just below. It might be just a, wow, really? And so it's not a matter of naming and shaming. It's a matter of providing the public with the information so they then can determine if these people who did this action when they had the power should get power again, because ultimately the people decide that. So I'll give you an example, because I don't want to talk in abstract. U.S. is having an election, had an election on Tuesday, it's still continuing. Imagine if Ron DeSantis, this is a hypothetical, if you found out as him, because I'm asking you a question, I'm interviewing you, if you found out that 11 days before the Florida election for governor, Ron DeSantis, in his position as the incumbent, the governor actually at the time, gave a financial benefit to the person who was in charge of the election for the Florida governor, 11 days before the election. What would you say in response to that?
Wow. Yeah.
Is that okay? What if there's no proof? Let's take it further. If there's proof that the governor, so it says recording, that the person in charge of the election promised the governor, okay, I gotta make sure that, you see this county that's against you? I gotta make sure that the box is stuffed or that box disappears. Then that is a criminal offense, because there's consideration, the giving of money, and then there's the actual criminal action. But if there is no proof that you can find that something was actually done to affect the election, what do you then, and I'll ask you this question, if there's no proof, how do I find, who tells me? No, I'm talking about if there's no proof that the action was taken by the person. There's proof that there's a financial benefit. Okay, cool. Proof, DeSantis, hypothetical, right. Politician gives a financial benefit to the person in charge of the election 11 days before the election, but there's no proof that anything was done untoward by the head of the election. What would you say? And the person loses, for example. If DeSantis lost, and the other person that came in, the new governor, said, well, we found out that there was a financial benefit given to the head of the election 11 days before the election. As the new person, what do you do? Honestly, as the new person who is elected? Yes. To be honest, there has to be an investigation. In my view, there has to be an investigation. Of what? Of one, that financial benefit. No, if you have evidence of the financial benefit. No, you have evidence, but then you then have to prove why it was paid, right? And so if there's an investigation and you have an idea, and an investigation leads to evidence of this was the reason why this money was given to this person, because of course it looks bad, but is it bad? Is it unethical for a sitting person in government to give a financial benefit to the person who's in charge of the election 11 days before election? Well, I believe that, again, optics, because you have to determine what that money was for. Of course, we could all assume that the money was done for some
let's say, immoral reason,
Yeah.
right? But without that evidence, that proof, what you really have is assumptions at a point.
Yes, but what is it unethical? Is it bad? Is it dishonest for the...
I think the optics are bad.
Or just the optics?
No, I think, I do believe, again, I don't know. The thing is, I don't know.
I'm having this...
These are discussions that people would definitely...
Yeah, I'm having this discussion for a reason.
Right.
So I just want to take it to its logical conclusion. As in Bailey finds out this by the person who wins afterwards in the Florida governor race, for example. That's an example. New governor wins. New governor comes and says, but I found a file in my office which said that the previous governor, 11 days before the election, gave a financial benefit. Not, I guess that they did, but they did. Give a financial benefit to the person in charge of the election. I want the people to know this.
Okay. But the question again, I believe the questions aren't so clear, right? As in terms of what somebody would ask or what somebody would interpret that as. I believe that questions would be asked of you, hey, well, what the money was for. Questions would be asked of the previous governor, what the money was for. And of course, depending on persons' feeling towards the situation one way or the other, that may or may not determine what they want to do going forward in terms of perhaps putting their support behind that particular person.
Okay, good. Right. So the court of public opinion, if you just had that information, separate and apart from taking it to investigate for a crime, the court of public opinion who elects people then determines whether that sort of conduct is acceptable to them or not. Correct? Some people might say it isn't. Some people say, how could you do that? Some might say, well...
So may I ask, why did you do it in the first place? When I say you, I mean, why would you put it out?
Yes, okay, good. Some might say, why did you put it out?
Right, would you put out the information?
Yes. Why did you put out the information?
So why would you put it out in your estimation?
Because it's the people's business. The people need to know.
That now brings a question. Well, who determines which of the information the people need to know and don't know?
Yes.
In terms, right? And so, for instance, we had conversations in relation to, for instance, information I would have put out in terms of payment to certain companies and so forth and so forth. And the argument would be, well, it's the people's money. People need to know what is being done with their money.
Exactly.
But then who determines which money was spent is put out to the people? Why isn't there this? So just publish a whole running ledger of all the government, and let me just go see what everybody getting and then what everybody doing with the money.
Well, that's what the Freedom of Information Act does.
Right.
Because it's not every transaction that the people are really concerned about. That's why the Freedom of Information Act is there really for the press.
The problem I have with that, though, is that a lot of times people are told what they should be interested in.
Yes.
And that is the issue. The issue is who determines what information.
That is why the press, the fourth estate, is so important. Because the press is supposed to be the people's watchdog.
Right. Of course.
The press brought down the U.S. government in the 70s, the scandal, what do you call it?
Whitegate. Yeah.
Not Whitegate. White something else. No, not Whitegate. Whitegate is the name of the statutory corporation.
It'll come to us.
So the press is very important.
Right.
So the press then, okay, I understand what you're saying. You're saying, well, if a minister like me, when I put out my release about the company... Watergate.
Yeah, somebody just reminded me on that.
Exactly.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thanks, Jackie. The press should have the pulse of the people, so should be the ones to say, if something looks fishy, they should then probe. Something looks fishy, probe. I can't hear you, Azim.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Yeah, and I was saying that's something that we've even had discussions on here in terms of, here are issues that have come out of public debate, even on radio stations, questions being asked of the press, and how comfortable or how empowered the fourth estate is, how empowered are they to go and then probe and do the searching for the
Yes,
information.
but that is why we're also working on the Freedom of Information Act. I
Okay.
met with the Press Association. They told me that there are a couple issues with the existing legislation, which we're amending right now. So when we actually present all of this legislation, it will be comprehensive.
All right.
The first step is the new Anti-Corruption Act, which I'll explain just now. I know
Yeah,
we're
man.
running out of time. The Integrity in Public Life Amendment Act, Freedom of Information Amendment Act, and then the Procurement Contract Administration Act.
All right.
That is the issue you were talking about last week as well. All of this ties into good governance. Let me tell you why. The point is, you are not supposed to abuse the Treasury, right? Nobody is supposed to abuse the Treasury.
Right.
The Procurement Act is there. So when the government is listing goods or services or constructing projects, you're supposed to test the market. I'll give you a direct example. You provide certain sound, what do you call your services you provide? Production services. You provide production services. The government wants to have a specific large press conference, for example. When I say large, I mean a big one, right? Not the small one, big one. Anyone actually, because it's the Procurement Act actually speaks to all expenditure. What the government's supposed to do, the access that the government's supposed to do, if it's under a certain amount, you're supposed to get 3 quotes, at least.
Right.
Because government should get value for money.
Right.
Naturally, if you get 3 or more quotes, you will then see what the market value is. Unfortunately, when people bid for government, they double what their value is. But the person who really wants a job is going to price it at what it actually should be, and a chance of getting the job.
Okay.
So that applies for small things like a press conference. That applies to large things like a hospital.
All right. Okay.
Or road work. Those go to a more advanced stage where there's a terms of reference go out, people put in bids, there's a procurement board, they're supposed to sit. Not necessarily the least amount will get the winning bid, but the person with the most experience. So for example, I'm a lawyer. I believe that you pay people what they're worth.
Right.
You don't pay them just by time, or if you pay them by time, somebody's time value might be more than another person's.
All services are created equally.
Exactly. So, Bailey might have the highest of the 3 bids submitted to government. But Bailey has done 20 of these types of press conferences successfully in the past. So Bailey might win the bid. But at least the government knows through that reasonable process that it's getting value for its money, and there's some sort of test. Because then now, if Bailey, if the real value of that production is 50,000, and the real,
right,
and Bailey is bidding 100, somebody's bidding 80, and somebody's bidding 75, right? The procurement process could say, no, we're not paying any of y'all. We're going to wait till we get proper bids.
Right. But
because
I do believe when you're talking about even the reason for these things, I believe it's even more than just testing the market and getting value for money. It should also be about ensuring that the persons who are responsible for making these decisions in terms of determining who gets paid or whatever have a way of justifying the decisions that were made. So if questioned, well, this is the process that was, and this is the reason. So in other words, you must be able to justify the decision that was made.
You know that every single government person who makes a decision must make the decision reasonably by law?
Yes.
Or you could challenge it. In other jurisdictions, people file judicial review motions all the time.
All the time, right.
Because every decision maker in government, the public service, ministers, everybody, must make justifiable, reasonable decisions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that said, just to set the stage, so we have that we're supposed to have that control mechanism. Procurement Act has been breached left, right, and center. I've seen one contract for $874,000, no procurement. The contracts that I spoke about in my press release, no procurement. Right? I know that the going rate for the services that were provided is around $2,000 a month. People are getting paid $27,000 a month.
Okay.
Right? So people need to know these things because it's their money. The treasury is not my money, it's not your money, it's everybody who pays taxes. Right? Everybody who licenses their vehicle. Everybody who pays VAT in the supermarket and when they buy cornflakes. It's the people's money. So we are custodians of the people's money, so we have to protect it. That is why the good, but structures outlast people. I don't see myself ever trying to take any money from the government. I'm just not that kind of person.
All right.
People change.
Okay.
There are people like me who might have started in this and then say, boy, there's an opportunity to enrich themselves, and they change. But once you have the structure in place, then they can't beat this. There are less opportunities to beat the structure.
But and that is the question that has been raised here several times. Is it that the structure does not exist as it stands? Is it that the structure needs bolstering?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
The structure needs bolstering. Okay. Now we get to the legislation.
All right.
There was an Integrity in Public Life Act passed in 2013, and I think it was brought into force in I don't want to be inaccurate. I think it was 2018, Yes, it was passed in 2013, brought into force in 2018. That act sought to basically define who the persons are who should be filing declarations to the Integrity in Public Life Commission, which is a body that's set up of professional people. People file declarations every year. So Azam Bailey, you are a minister. Minister Azam Bailey files his declaration 1 year, and it says that he has $100,000 in assets, he has $60,000 in debt. These are his income streams, these are his bank accounts, these are his shares, etc. The next year, Azam Bailey files a declaration. Azam Bailey has $1 million in his bank accounts, and he has no debt, and he has double the shares. The Integrity in Public Life Commission can then investigate and ask you how all of a sudden on a ministerial salary you are able to change your assets from $100,000 to $1 million.
Right.
That is what the process in a simplified version in the Integrity in Public Life Act is. It's to catch people who accumulate wealth outside of their legal streams. Right? It's to catch them. So that act, how it was drafted, covered a load of civil servants. When I met with the commission, they said they were anticipated receiving 1,400 declarations. The regulations were never, the amendments and regulations were never passed, even after 2018, to allow for the declarations, but they were preparing for them.
Right.
And they estimated based on the listing that there would be 1,400. That's ridiculous. There should not be 1,400. That should be reserved for high-level government officials. Okay. So what we did, we proposed to amend that list to just MPs, ministers, permanent secretaries, chair and deputy chairpersons of statutory corporations, etc., senior people, the persons who can take the larger bribes if they wanted to, whose wealth could change significantly, so that the Integrity in Public Life Commission could then monitor these people to make sure that they're not corrupt. And all corruption is this dishonesty or fraudulent conduct by people in power, typically bribery. That's what corruption is. So we've amended that act. That act also has a code of conduct. So then what you're doing is you're creating, for senior civil servants, for all civil servants actually, you're creating ethical guidelines by which they must abide.
All right, so, and as it stands now, because there's obviously similar documentation that exists now, is it that it was found that is lacking?
Yes. What happened? The list was too expansive.
Okay.
So reduce the list. Then what we decided to do is to implement an anti-corruption act. What that act does is two fundamental things. It creates the office of a special prosecutor, meaning a lawyer who's a prosecutor dedicated specifically to investigating, prosecuting, and recovering monies related to corrupt activity throughout the civil service, not by senior people alone, throughout the civil service. So anybody sees an incident of corruption, they can report it to the special prosecutor's office. Office is independent. It's subject to the constitutional powers of the Director of Public Prosecution, which has the overarching powers to deal with criminal matters, whether to start them or end them. And that person can then prosecute or recover monies that maybe have been siphoned off through corruption. That's the one thing that anti-corruption does. The second thing it does, it creates actual corruption criminal offenses. Before, there were very limited corruption-style offenses. The new Anti-Corruption Act creates corruption-style offenses, bribery, receiving money so somebody could get a job, receiving money so that you, from someone to give them a contract, right? Those sorts of incidents of bribery that could happen anywhere in the civil service.
All right. So even though the anti-corruption bill and it looks at when you spoke about the declarations, you've kind of focused down on high-level officials. The bill itself actually creates these things that would be applicable to people throughout the civil service.
Yes. So that's exactly what I'm doing. The Integrity in Public Life Act will focus. The commission will focus on the high-level persons. And these are persons basically above assistant secretaries. That's a person just below permanent secretary at a certain level. So high level, MPs, etc., supervisory election, all those different constitutional creatures. They are the ones we cover. They're the ones who are filing declarations, telling the commission what they have, and the commission monitoring what they get in the future and then can investigate them. The special prosecutor throughout the civil service. So any incident of corruption that somebody sees, they can report it. It also does a very important thing. It protects whistleblowers.
Okay.
Whistleblowers are persons who tell on.
Yeah.
There's some words I don't want to use.
Who one might, let's say, because I think the argument sometimes is hey, these people would have taken an oath of maybe non-disclosure or something like that, but for whatever reason they believe this information needs to be in the public and would release that information.
Who's that? The commissioners?
No. Whistleblowers.
Whistleblowers are someone. What the whistleblower section does, people don't have to worry about being fired or prejudiced in any way if they report certain actions to the special prosecutor, to the DPP, to the police, to senior officials. So it protects the persons so that they're not scared to then report the corrupt activity they see.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
In terms of, so we spoke about, for instance, corruption, and of course, know that that the intention is to clearly define what these corrupt actions are.
Yes.
Is there any thought to, for instance, negligence, especially after recognizing, as you said earlier, that everyone in the civil service is expected to make justifiably reasonable decisions. If unjustifiable, unreasonable decisions were made that cost, for instance,
the law is already
government.
there. Law is already
there. Okay. Because I don't.
Oh, you mean that cost the government?
That cost the government.
I see what you're saying.
Money. For instance, there may be a situation where someone decides to, for whatever reason, take action, and because I think a lot of times what happens is that people recognize, hey, this action might not be necessary, but for whatever reason we go ahead, and we don't have to worry, because even if we have to pay some cost for it in the future, it ain't coming out of my pocket anyway, my paycheck shift. And so is that something that has been considered? Is that something that is being looked into? Or is that something that perhaps may come in the future?
Yeah, that's something to think about, certainly.
I think that happens a lot, I think a lot of times we talk about corruption.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times what happens is decisions are made, like I said, and the cost isn't paid by the decision maker. The decision is paid sometimes. The cost is paid again
by the government,
by the government,
by the people, effectively.
Mm-hmm.
So what would happen? The special prosecutor under the new anti-corruption bill, the proposed bill, has the power to recover, to sue people. So if there's action that is maybe might not rise to the level of corruption being a criminal offense, but something that is borderline.
Because, for instance, a lot of times when we talk about corruption, we talk about monetary gain. Sometimes people's motivation to act in a way that is immoral is not purely financial. But there's a financial cost that is not paid or not borne by the individual making the decision.
Yes. So in this act, the special prosecutor can bring a civil claim against that person to recover those monies.
All right. And what is the scope of this bill? For instance, you're saying that administration can come in and then, well, some of this is ongoing for sure. But some of the triggers that may come as in a switch of administration. So what is this scope? Is it just to the previous administration?
No. It's independent. The special prosecutor doesn't take directives from anyone. The bill gives the special prosecutor independence, subject, of course, to the DPP's powers.
And that person is, that position is someone who is to be appointed, or is like what is
No,
it?
the person is appointed by the court.
Okay.
By the regional court.
Regional court.
So yes, you're right. I've always said, it is not the duty of an incoming government to punish the previous government. If somebody breached the law, it's not the new government that's supposed to punish them. People make that mistake. It is the independent authorities, the police, the DPP, and now the special prosecutor who make the decision whether to proceed with criminal matters or not. I cannot interfere with any criminal matter. I cannot start any criminal matter. All I can do, if I see something, is provide the information to the decision makers for them to make that decision.
So that special prosecutor, like you're saying, isn't a politically appointed person and does not answer directly to the administration at the time?
No.
All right.
The person is appointed by the JLSC, the Judicial Legal Services Commission, which is operated by the Eastern Caribbean Supreme Court, and they're only terminated by that body as well.
Right.
So then if for example, you don't like what the special prosecutor is doing, you, as a minister, you can't just fire the person. Right. The person has some sort of autonomy so that they can, and they also, the money for them is provided for in Parliament. So there's the opposition gets a say in what that person is paid. So you get a good person. So you don't just get someone who might be taking directions from another person. All
right, we look forward to even more debate. And you're saying that this proposed bill is available for those of you who may be interested in going through and seeing what is proposed. And they can find this on the SKNIS.
All they have to Google is SKNIS anti-corruption or SKNIS integrity in public life, and it will come up and they'll have access to it.
All right, guys, I appreciate you taking the time out to come and hang out with us this morning. It does seem like there's a lot on the work. You did say the legislative agenda of the administration is expansive.
Heavy.
And so I'm sure we're going to be hearing more about not only this piece of legislation, but also many more to come.
Yep.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Azim. Have a good morning, everyone.
For sure. Guys, time is fast spent. You already sit down at 10 o'clock, but guess what? We had important things to discuss. So thank you for hanging out with us, for sticking with us this morning. Everyone who joined us on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. I saw some Twitch people on the live this morning. Big up yourself. All the persons who hitting us up from Boston, we know there's a big Kittition and Division contingent there in Boston. I have uncles, family. Hey, I got a nice new little cousin just born like 2 weeks ago in Boston, So big up yourself, all those who listening from Boston right now. But those of you on the radio as well, right here locally, St. Kitts Nevis, big up yourself. I appreciate it so much that you guys take the time. I met some sippers last night over at Park Hyatt. There was a lovely event over there hosted by the Ministry of Tourism. And I met some lovely sippers over there who had some of the best sugar cake I ever had in my life. They had one there that says the COVID-19 booster. I was afraid. I had to ask them if they sprinkle some COVID in it, but they told me no, it was just some turmeric and ginger. Some of the best sugar cakes I've had in my life. So big up yourself. Sippers got a lot of talent by. Maybe we need to do a show like that one day, Sippers got talent. If y'all think that's a good idea, let me know. But guys, I appreciate it so much. Thank you for taking the time out to come hang out with me this morning. Hopefully, y'all prefer JD here. JD the prayers. JD the prayers, guys. But please remember to learn from the losses of others. Also, guys, please remember to spend more time living your content than just posting it up. There's a way and place to do things. All right? And also, guys, please remember you can't be everybody's cup of tea because you is not a mug. Gonna see you guys tomorrow.